Chicago rapper Lil Durk in the next 3 months will either be a free man or in jail for the rest of his life. Now, as crazy as it feels, Durk has been in jail for the past year over the murder for hire attempt on Quando Rondo, which killed his cousin. Now, Lil Durk is in a win or go home situation. The prosecutors have overcharged him, and some of it has been to his benefit. Now, Lil Durk is being charged for avenging the death of King Von, which killed Quando Rondo's cousin. And Lil Durk also is being charged for getting Stefan Mack killed, which is the person who allegedly killed his older brother D-Thing. And now Lil Durk is being accused by the feds for threatening to kill O-Block members who didn't want to slide for Von after he was killed. The federal prosecutors, despite seeming all big and bad, are really panicking, and here's why. Now, the main theory throughout this entire trial over the past year, when Durk first got arrested in October 2024, was that Lil Durk promised his friends money upwards of $100,000 and music career opportunities if they killed Quando Rondo. Now, the biggest question you have to ask for in this situation is why would Lil Durk threaten to kill his own friends, which is the recent allegation. Now, let me take you down to Chiracology Reddit and give you guys a quick crash course. Now, there are 3 sets, 300, which is Lamron, 600, as well as O-Block. Now, these 3 sets are all GD sets, and everyone here gets along together. Now, essentially, the feds are alleging that Durk wanted to kill his own friends because they're mad that he didn't retaliate for the death of King Von. Now, whether if Durk is from Lamron and King Von's from O-Block, they all have the same friends, which means they all have the same enemies because they are all BD rappers. Now, the feds accusing Durk of putting a hit on his friends contradicts the original story and the original theory that they had in the first indictment, that Durk Derek Banks flew 5 of his friends from Chicago all the way to California with the conspiracy and the intent to commit a murder for hire, resulting in death. Now, for one, Durk, if he did pay his friends, he paid his friends. Cool, we get that. That's the theory. But for you to say then that Durk wanted to kill his own friends, it almost contradicts your original theory. Because why would Durk want to kill his own friends if he paid those same people to go and kill Quando Rondo in retaliation to King Von? Now let's bring it back to the original story and the original theory that I said before. 300, 600, as well as O-Block are all 3 sets that are very coherent and they get along. So on one hand, you're saying that Durk paid members of these 3 sets to go on Chicago to all the way to California to kill someone, and then now you're saying that Lil Durk, because they didn't want to do it, put money on someone else's head from one of those 3 circles because they didn't want to kill for King Von. It's a little bit contradicting and very confusing. Now, the court document will read, evidence that defendant Banks and others involved in the murder of SR sought to exact revenge on another rival of defendant Banks at defendant Banks' direction. Now, specifically, in April of 2023, text messages by and between defendant Banks and OTF members, including defendant DeAndre Wilson, which is Didi, and Antonio Jones, aka Booney Mo, and PW1, which is still unknown, show defendant Banks feud with O-Block member Muna Duke over defendant Banks' belief that O-Block members were not properly retaliating for Bennett's death. Now, to put this in simple terms, what the prosecution is saying is that Lil Durk had a conversation with Muna Duke because he was upset that Muna Duke and OTF wasn't responding or sliding for Von. Now, this situation is a little bit confusing and contradicting because here's why. Now, the murder of Quando Rondo's cousin Lil Pab happened in August of 2022. Now, this says that specifically in April of 2023, messages between Banks and Muna Duke came about the situation involving the sliding for Von and how he was upset that they hadn't retaliated. Now, let's say the theory is true, that Lil Durk paid for 5 of his friends to board a plane from Chicago to California and kill Quando Rondo, which they didn't successfully do, and they killed his cousin. If so, why would Durk then go in text messages after deliberately saying before, and that was in the first indictment, don't book no flights under no names involved with me, and tell someone else that they're upset that they didn't slide for Von if he already handled the business? If what they're saying is true, that Lil Durk gave his friends money and was going to give them music opportunities to kill King Von, why would he then go almost a year later and text someone that he's mad that they didn't do something if he already handled it the year prior? It doesn't make any sense. Now, Durk has been very smart in this situation because he had an underboss, which is OTF Didi, DeAndre Wilson, who is essentially the person manning the middle and covering it all up. As you can see, there's really no direct links to Durk in this situation other than Didi or in Vonnie using the OTF credit card because these guys aren't rich, so obviously it's Lil Durk's money. So let's continue. In the thread, defendant Banks states, "I'm finna pipe it up," to which Booty Ramone responds, "Blood, it's green." Now going down by 1 or 2 lines, the government expects PW1, which I assume is a confidential informant, to testify that in response to defendant Banks' directions to exact revenge on O Block members. Now PW1 and Booty Mo purchased a vehicle with funds from defendant Banks to travel to O Block and kill whatever O Block members they could find. PW1 is also expected to testify that PW1 would have been expected to be paid by defendant Banks for anyone that the conspirators killed. But the conspirators did not go through with the plan because of police presence in O Block. Now here's the strange thing about informants when it comes to federal cases. Informants in federal cases are out to save their own ass. Like, we don't know who PW1 is. This could be anyone. This could be someone who's actually not even an affiliate of O Block, but has been around Durk a couple times and they're creating a story. Now, this doesn't really make any sense why Lil Durk would want to kill his own mans because they didn't slide for Vaughn, which is also their own friend. That I'm not buying. And this is why I feel like the prosecution, I'm not going to say they're moving like this is the Young Thug trial, but they may have bit off more than they can chew. You know, essentially, Lil Durk has a clean slate if nobody cooperates against him. But what's going to happen next is exactly going to be that. Evidence that defendant Banks and other OTF members involved in the murder of SR discussed violence against another rival at defendant Banks' direction. Now, specifically, in April 2023, text message between defendant Banks and defendant Wilson, Booty Mo, and Devontae Collier, aka Zoo, where defendant sent a screenshot of an Instagram message to Ramsey saying, "I got them hunting you up, ads better have 3 ski masks on." Now, to summarize this in simple terms, the feds are saying that Lil Durk was mad at Duke over O Block not properly retaliating over the death of King Von, which I'm not entirely sure how they can do that because Quando Rondo's from Georgia. And if he's not with NBA Youngboy in Utah or Louisiana, like, these aren't easy people to find by any means. So I'm not sure how that retaliation would have happened in the first place. But what the feds are accusing Durk of, which I'm 90% sure of, is that PW1, according to them, because he's their lifeline, that Durk put a hit on OTF members because of what happened to King Von and that they didn't retaliate. Now, this entire lifeline, or this entire pretty much breakdown script right here of 2 and 3, was through the lifeline and connection of PW1. Because how would they know that Durk had a conversation with Duke, or even to check that Durk had a conversation with Duke? There are so many rappers, Lil Reese, Chief Keef, King Von, even though that he's dead, Take a Poke. Like, there's so many rappers from the 300, the 600, and the Lamron O Block clique that how do you know whose message to check? And this is why it boils down to them having an informant. Because the informant is essentially the person that glues this story together, and the prosecution planned to introduce his testimony with the witness who claims that Durk gave the orders, and that witness, of course, is who we presume to be PW1. Now, I'm going to be the first to say I'm not believing it. You got the feds saying that Durk tried to kill his own friend because his other friend died. I'm not believing it at all. Thank you for watching the video. I'll catch you next one. Jared Star, I'm gone. Make sure you subscribe.